Okay, welcome to the podcast. And you might have already guessed, I'm on my own tonight. Well, I do have someone coming in, but Paul Van Bellen is not on the podcast tonight. We're going old school. And if anyone's been following the podcast for a while, you'll know last year we started a series with Michele Becker. Now, Michele Becker at the beginning of last season was probably not known to a lot of you guys. If you're in the racing scene, you would have heard his name, you would have seen him at competitions, but it was his first full year on the PWA Tour, in fact, doing all the events. And that was kind of a big deal. And I thought, you know what? Let's follow him throughout the year. Let's see how he gets on. Well, that turned out to be quite a good decision because at the end of the year, he finished, looking at the PWA rankings, in 5th place. Yes, 5th place, which is pretty bonkers. He actually did the first event in Garda and ended up 5th there. And everyone was like, bloody hell, this guy's going good. You know, can he sustain it? Anyway, so we've got him back in this year because the racing season is kicking off soon. You know, we've been doing a lot of wave stuff and now it's time to get into the racing. So we're going to talk to him about training, you know, what he's been up to, all that sort of stuff. So if you want to leave a comment, if you want to have a question asked, if you've got any inside information you might need, maybe he knows, now is your chance to get it in. So there we go. Without further ado, let's bring in Mr. Michele Becker. How are we doing?
Hey, all good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. No problem. Yeah. I mean, let's kick it off because maybe some people didn't follow it last year. I mean, how was that in your first full year on the PWA? That's a pretty epic result. Did you imagine that? What were you aiming for? What was your initial goals?
Yeah, the thing is, I think nobody expected it like this. Like, I definitely didn't. My sponsors didn't. I think everyone else also didn't. And yeah, my goal was to end up in the top 15 in my first full year. And I always thought that on a good event, when the conditions are suiting me, I can be top 10. Yeah. And yeah, so now I did so much better that in the end, to me, it feels like I skipped a whole year in terms of performance and results, because what I achieved last year would have been my goals for this year, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
Or even in couple of years. I mean, 5th.
Yeah.
I mean, just to remind myself, ahead of you, Matteo Iachino, Amado Vrieswijk, Maciek Rakowski, Pierre Mortefon. Pretty much all of them have a world title. We're going to say Amado has because he's won it in freestyle, but you know what I mean? All world champions ahead of you. Yeah. And obviously, we've got to mention Johan So because obviously there was a disqualification, but we won't talk too much about that. But that will come up this year for sure because he will be challenging. He is one of the obviously young guys coming through. Yeah. How does it? I should also say, I didn't say in the preview for people who don't know, you started the season with brand new sponsors as well. So you tested out gear from a few different brands, from what I can understand. You decided in the end to go with Patrick. I'm guessing that deal you signed then was maybe not as good as the deal you're on now. I don't know. Like, did you have a 1-year contract? I mean, what's the sort of, how did that work? Or did you have incentives? Did you give you some crazy incentives which you thought it'll never hit these?
a good question. Because as I also said before, that even my sponsors didn't expect me to do this well. Yeah. But the good thing is that I have a lot of incentives in my contract. So the base is maybe not as high as from other guys who are on my position. Yeah. But the incentives made it still very fair for me already last year to get what I deserve. And and actually it was for more than 1 year, the contract. Okay. But I would still not change my decision back then, even though I did so much better than everyone thought. Yeah. I still feel like I like this kind of safety, so that I know I have this year exactly the same gear like last season. Yeah. And for them, it's also nice because they know they can give me all the gear, the secrets, you know. So yeah, we just grown together, and I still like everything how it is.
That's super interesting, especially for the guys maybe listening to this who are coming up into it. I have always been a fan in my sponsorship deals in the past and currently that not to sign a 1-year contract. I don't think it's good for the brand. I don't think it's good for the rider. And again, it can count against you if you do better than expected. But in my head, you should really be renegotiating for a year extension now. Let's say you signed a 2-year deal last year. So you've 1 year. And then now, after with 1 year left, like they do in football, like they do in
exactly what I'm also thinking.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? Because now they've had a year to assess you. They're like, okay, he's done that. Okay, now we want to keep him next year, and we want to know we've got him next year because all the marketing stuff from the tail end of this year. If you decide and you get a better offer and leave, it's not good for them either. And then they lose. So it's like I always said this: your first deal should be 2 years, and then after a year, you renegotiate an extra year. And then you're never in this position. If you don't renegotiate an extra year, it's like, okay, I better start looking elsewhere for next year because we've never done that in windsurfing, as far as I know. Not many people, anyway.
Yes, and also just with the situation, we've had last year, at the end of last year, that, for example, Pierre left U-Tone, Maciek left FMX and Challenger. So, if I had a 1-year deal, then you basically never know what's up with all the other people. So of course you also risk something, because in the end, for example, if I would have become world champion all of a sudden last year already, then for sure it's a bit not the nicest feeling to being stuck on this contract. But at the same time, if you have incentives, which I think makes sense for both the company and the riders, then you're still fine. And for example, for me, it's also that now last year I got even more than what was in my contract, especially with the foil and so on, because they saw my potential. I think I promoted the foil quite well, and in the end, it's win-win for both.
Yeah. But again, there's no saying that they can't offer you a little bit extra this year if they wanted to, because they want to keep you happy. They want to keep you in that whole family, I would imagine. So
exactly.
It's interesting.
And my relationship to the whole company, to all the people involved, is really good, and so that I don't even, as I said, I don't even feel like I sold myself under my value. It's still that I'm pretty sure that if I deliver like last year, they will give everything that they have and that they're willing to give me. So it's just great teamwork.
And racing is an interesting one, because you're not really doing travel trips. It's literally results. People want to see. Well, I'd imagine a brand would want to see a rider get on the gear, start winning. It looks so good for them. And for you as a rider, you want to be on the best gear that puts you in the best position. So the salary, if some brand comes in, offers you 50 grand a year, 100 grand a year, but the gear is not up to what you speed, and then your results suffer, it sounds good for 1 year, but then people are like, well, he did terrible that year. And then I've seen a few riders do that. They've gone for the money and not for the gear. And in windsurfing racing, I think.
And I have to say, I can't blame them, because as you know, there's some money in the windsurfing industry, but not a lot, and maybe not even enough for everyone. So I can totally understand. But in my situation, I'm now 25, and I was really thinking, and that's also what you pointed out, that I changed to Patrick just for last season, so for 2023, because I was thinking now I kind of going towards my peak, in a few years, hopefully. So now I really want to just get results, have fun on the water, so I'm also very fortunate to be in this situation, and that I don't have to, decide just by the budget or the money.
Yeah. Interestingly as well, you said there's quite a few big fish on the market, or there has been. We've seen a few of them now. Maciek, I heard, has gone to Neil Pride. I think we're going to try and have a chat with him next week. Pierre Mortevon's gone to Phantom, which was an interesting one. Again, there's a couple of ones out there which I didn't really see coming. And actually, Patrick have signed some new riders. So They've signed Marion Mortafon, Jimmy
Yes.
Tieme, I think maybe even some more. I mean,
Thomas Goya
yeah,
is also on the
exactly.
team now. So yeah. And
Interesting,
they're also
isn't
with all of them. I'm so happy that they joined the team. And Thomas, for example, he's now gonna do the Defi because he's also a very talented and quick windsurfer. And this year I said I would be ready to go to the Defi if they want me to, but I would prefer to stay in Germany because there's the surf festival on Fehmarn. And in the end, for me, it's also nice because now Tomas going there, I can stay here. So it's just good.
It's interesting, and I have heard a few rumors that there might be a few more Patrick Foils knocking around the race course this year. Is like I've heard a couple of the boys have been testing them, which are not officially Patrick riders. Let's say, I mean, all the official equipment will be on the measurement, So I guess
I'm looking.
Not really a secret.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Me too. Me too.
A lot of people tried it, and especially on Tenerife during the training, I also felt the difference if they were on the Patrick foil or on a different foil. And for example, for me, I had the moment of realization because I jumped behind someone who was now on the Patrick foil and who wasn't last year, and all of a sudden I had a hard time to overtake them in the jives. All of a sudden the game is a bit different now.
And that's what I've been hearing. I've heard a few people. So again, for me, I've heard the rumors, but until we see that first event and we see the equipment list come out and we see who's on what, because even if they're sponsored by someone else, they have to write down the exact foil what they're using. So again, we don't know, but I have heard rumors. We'll see. I guess we will see. And I heard a few more people who maybe weren't up there last year are a bit more competitive in the training. We know that's not the official racing yet, but there has been a few names who I've heard have got maybe stepped up a little bit in terms of speed and stuff.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. So do we want to give any names who's going well over the winter? Because let's say it for people who don't know. What has been your winter program? So you finished racing quite late. What month?
Mid of November.
Which was what event was that?
Japan.
Okay, Japan. Yes, obviously. So so mid-November finish. Any time off before you start straight back into it? What was your winter program?
Basically I got home and I brought COVID with me from Japan. So the day after I arrived, I was completely ill for 2 weeks. And then I wanted to take off the December anyways. I had like every weekend, some family meetings, wedding, whatever. So it was, quite busy. And then I think 10th of January, I went to Tenerife with a ferry. And then I've stayed there until end of March. So basically mid of January until end of March.
So that's pretty much the whole winter training in Tenerife. When does it start usually?
Beginning of January. I think I missed officially 2 weeks.
Okay.
But I have to say that in January, I don't know if I even joined the training session because I had some back pain again after Japan and also something with my chest. It started hurting in September and then it just got worse over the event in Sylt and then Japan. Okay. So I really wanted to go to Tenerife and do some treatments there, go to the gym and basically just reset myself, get healthy. And I have to say in January, not so many top guys were there. Matteo was doing a bit of testing. Jordi had some clinics. Nico Preen did video stuff. So in the end, I didn't miss much.
Okay. So the main month you'd sort of say Tenerife is February when everyone starts to really...
Yeah, definitely February. Always has been the most busiest.
Okay. And who's going well then? Who are we going to see maybe step up a bit this year? Who's been looking good? Who's put in more work? Sometimes you see it, not to say the other guys haven't put in the work, but certain people's work seem to have affected their speed better? Any names?
So the thing is that also in February, I was not so much in the training because I had an ear infection, which I dealt with 3 or 4 weeks, was super annoying. And we also had the Patrick shooting. So when we had, I think it was the best week in terms of wind, I didn't join the training. So for example, I think I never sailed a single race against Johan, which I wanted to, but didn't happen. And same with some other names. Daniele Benedetti, I didn't sail against him because they were just there a few weeks. And so basically, the main training I had in March, and there was left Jordi, Matteo, Maciek, a bit of Bruno was there still a bit, and Nico, I would say. So it was like a core group of 5, 6 really good guys.
Interesting. And who's going good? Come on. There's a bit of a change in gear and new gear, I guess, from different brands.
Yeah, I can say that Jordi is doing well. Again, finally.
That's the rumor I heard. I just wanted to hear if that was, because obviously last year it didn't really live up to his expectations or other people's, and everyone kind of counted him out. By the first couple of events, it was like, well, don't worry about Jordi. So I'd been hearing his name over the winter, and I thought, okay, that's interesting.
Yes, no, I'm just personally happy that he's up there again. I know he had some struggles with the gear. And he even told me that there was a rumor that he would stop his competing career after last year. And he never said anything like this, but it was in some kind of a forum. And you know how it is. So I can confirm he's 100% still racing and up there again.
Okay. That's good to hear. We like Jordi on the channel. He's always good. He's always. I don't know if he's got that killer competitive. I know how fast he is, but I always think he's almost too nice.
Yes. That might be true.
Yeah,
we will see.
We will.
But other than that, the rest of the top guys I mentioned were all consistent in their own way, but you never know what gear they're using on a certain day, what they are trying to achieve on that day, if they want to try different scenarios, or if they want to win, or if they want to do anything else. So it's hard to judge, but everyone was winning here and there, and
it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult, like you say. It's training. It's not racing. There's no money involved. So that's interesting you say that, and because I always thought that. I always looked at that training and I thought, well, I feel like it's really good for the guys that are not winning, because they get to push themselves. Maybe they start to go fast. They get psychological lifts that they wouldn't have got if they didn't go against these guys. But the top guys, I always think, if I was those top guys, are you giving away your edge? But then I guess what you said there is kind of interesting. It's like you don't know if they're pushing or not. And maybe if they could, they go, well, I could push harder. And then it's the other guy saying that as well. And it's like, okay, so interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, and for me, I can say that if I was there for 2 or 3 months and I was trying to win every single race, I think it would kill me in the end mentally, because as I mentioned, you never know what the other people are doing. So maybe you're winning 3 races back to back, but nobody was really trying, and then all of a sudden you don't win the race for a whole day, but everyone also wanted to be from the best position, maybe with their best setup. So I just figured out my way, and
I guess you go there with goals. I guess startings are quite a key one, just to get your fire in. I guess that's quite a thing you can practice without any consequences or whatever. And then I guess gear tuning, is that what it is? You're changing front wings, or I don't know, maybe you don't, but foiling wise, because we're obviously talking about foiling at the moment, which we will have to touch on at some point. There's the what are we calling it now? Super X, not Super X.
Slalom X.
Slalom X. There we go. Slalom X. In fact, let's talk about it now, because I've got to be honest. I haven't got a clue what's going on. I saw a bit of the video from Nico that he put out, which I thought was pretty epic. But I was reading some comments from the general sort of social media crew, and there was so many negative comments. I was like so surprised that I was like, oh, okay. Because well, firstly, what's your take on it? Like, is there any events confirmed? Because that's what I couldn't work out totally. And then it's like, I don't know. There's quite a lot of unanswered questions from me, and I know I'm the commentator, but it's like it's exciting for me, but it's also like I don't know how serious it is because we don't know what's happening.
So I don't know where to start, but so confirmed in terms of events is basically nothing so far.
Okay, so
in terms of
official, we're doing it
or not, and because everything was decided quite late, I think it got made officially in like January, if I'm not wrong. So of course they were the PWA was already speaking with the organizers, had some contracts here and there. So now all of a sudden you have 2 fleets. So the question is what we do about the prize money, because we have some people who are only doing fin, who are only doing foil. So to split it just 50-50 is maybe not the right way. And the thing is that they also put out that foiling will be held on every event, and then Slalom X will be additionally for windy venues. So this basically should confirm foiling for every event, but from what I heard, it could still be that on Pozo, for example, would just be fin. Okay. So would be, I don't know. For me, it's also not the best situation because I also I order my gear already that what I expect to be using. And then now I spend a lot of time on certain gear because I thought, okay, I will need it for high winds. And now if we don't race in Pozo, I have one less high wind event, which also makes a big difference for me in terms of gear and training.
And what you order is what you register, your very small one, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, and especially now with all the foil stuff, since years, it's always hard to get it on time, or let's say they're not on stock, you know, because it's just much too expensive.
Yeah.
So but Slalom X in general, for example, when they had this training day on Tenerife, I have to say I didn't participate there because I went to the harbor to test. I was testing the whole day. I found out some really good stuff for my strong wind setup for the foil. And when I saw the videos later, it was really cool to see.
Yeah,
I have to say. And I think it can make for some really good content.
Yeah.
But I have to say that in a live stream or in a real race, it's unlikely that 2 people are jumping the sausage at the same time, if we even have it, because this is just one of, I don't know, 10 elements that could be implemented.
Yeah.
And in general, I think people forgot how sensitive the fin is to wind changes. And we still have the marks. We have the inside marks in Fuerte, for example. And I have the feeling it could be a pain to watch at some point. And also with how many races got canceled in the past, I don't know. I think this is, usually the human mind just reminds the good things. So I'm curious how it will turn out. For me, it would be perfect if it comes like they said, foiling for every event as the new school discipline. And then on some venues and some conditions when it's really good for the Slalom X, then bring on the show. I'm happy to watch it. And
that's how I see it. That's how I genuinely see it. I don't think, there was nothing worse. I know Supercross is not the same as Slalom X, but there was nothing worse than light wind Supercross. It was like, oh my God, it was pretty bad, really. You really needed the wind and the challenging conditions, and you need a bare bit of wind. And you don't need massive sausages, and you only probably need one near the end of the race just to add that element of, do you hit it full speed? Because if you're winning or if it's close battle with someone else, then you can't slow down and time it. You have to just gun it and try and lift it up. And there's different decisions to be made. So I think it would be interesting, but I think they have to be careful not to add too many elements, because I think then it becomes a bit too, I still want it to be slalom. I still want it to be high wind slalom, which is the main thing. And then there's maybe there's a beach start. I like the idea of a beach start, but there's not many venues that can facilitate a good beach start. I like the idea of a very small sausage. It doesn't even have to be, like the old Super X. It really can be like a pool noodle, like that size, because it's just a tripwire, and then it's all about just psychologically.
It just messes up your speed and your timing.
Yeah, and that's interesting for me from a commentary point of view. I think that could be really interesting. The different courses I like, there's lots of stuff, like that. I think it could work, but like you say, you have to be careful. I think they should, again, as you said, guarantee foiling for everything, because I think after watching last year, I mean, it was perfect. Like, if you like foil or you don't like foil in terms of you actually on it, that's one thing. But you cannot say that watching it wasn't exciting last year. Obviously I did the commentary, so I watched every race, but it was drama filled, which is really what you want. It was lots of unexpected things happening, good overtaking maneuvers. When we had the swell, it was very tactical and really positional. You don't get that in Formula One. You have to be there or there. But in windsurfing with swell, there was lots of different angles and stuff going on. I thought it was super good. I think there's been a lot of people, and a lot of people I know, that haven't watched racing or stuff for a long time, and they tuned in for a few events last year and then they got hooked. Paul Van Bellen, who I usually do the commentary with, he's never really been into watching the slalom and stuff, and he said he started watching the foiling last year and then was like, this is full on. And I know people who have got wives or whatever that don't windsurf, and they're glued to it with them. As soon as they start watching, that's such a good sign. When you hear that, I think that is what we need to produce. We need to, if you guys are ever going to make any money, you need to be watched, and people need to be interested to watch that they're not windsurfers themselves. Because yes, of course, we're going to get a very niche market of windsurfers watching and racers or foilers, but really the money comes from you guys, from the outside sponsors, and that outside sponsor is only coming in if you can have like the motocross. Not everyone who watches motocross has a motocross bike, but they understand and they watch it. And that's realistically what windsurfing was in the early days. Windsurfing was on mainstream TV and people watched it. And then Dunker Beck, Robbie Nash became household names. And, if we ever want to get even a chunk of that back, it doesn't have to go obviously to that extreme that it was, although it would be nice, just to get people who are not windsurfers interested and glued to the watching it. I think that's definitely a good thing.
Yeah, I fully agree. And for me, the main difference, because for fin and foil, for what people like to do in their free time or when they're sailing, I can totally understand both decisions. But just for racing and to show it, as you said, on a live stream or even bigger media like television, the foiling just opens up so many possibilities in terms of overtakes and costly mistakes, because you barely see like crazy overtakes multiple times in a race on the fin, at least from what I remember. I could also be wrong. And also that how many times did the first, like the leading guy in a foil heat, all of a sudden just crash?
Yeah.
And on fin, it's much easier to go with 90% speed and bring it over the line, I think.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, like I said, from the commentary wise, you could see it. The only thing I'm worried about, and you can help me out with this because I'm obviously not a top foiler, so I don't know. I kind of feel like a lot of events were exciting last year because you guys were on the wrong gear. because it was hard to be able to know what was going to happen before the year. So a lot of people also were on big front wings, and almost too big a sails sometimes because they chose to get fin. And I think that added to the drama. So we had, like, you don't always see it on the TV, but when I speak to the riders, they're all like, Ben, I am absolutely shitting myself. I am dying. I am on the edge of like death every reach. It's like, it's a miracle I made it to the end. And you don't always see that when you visually watch it. You're just like, oh, this is quite exciting. But they're like, and will we get that same thing this year? Or will the gear choices help and the experience? Is there an extra front wing this year? Was that what
Yes.
Yes.
One more than last year.
So will that change things, do you think?
One less board. So this year we only have one full board, but 3 front wings. And sails is about similar, because this year we can do 5 full sails, and last year basically everyone had 4 or 5 full sails and then 1 or 2 fin.
Yeah.
So that's a really good question. I think what will happen, like long term, is that everyone will get closer to another from the performance and also from the gear. That's just natural. And I think we already see it this year that the brands who had good gear improved a bit, then brands who had to make up a lot maybe improved a bit more percentage wise. And I think same with the performance of the riders. So I think it's a bit more tight now. Once again, could just be that it was training. But I think for me, it's now this year a bit harder to imagine crazy comebacks, because I think, that also, let's say the riders ranked from 10th place to 20th place gained a bit towards the top. But if someone does a mistake, I think it will get punished same like last year.
Yeah.
And also, I never really thought about how the gear decision, or that someone didn't have the perfect gear last year, was a factor, but that's a good point.
Only because I just thought that, yes, last year for me has been almost the pinnacle of racing. For, if I think visual excitement, me commentating, and the feelings I was get by watching the racing, and then the feedback I've got from other people, again, like I said, even non-windsurfers, I feel like it's going to be bloody hard. And I'm interested to see. I'm not saying it won't be better or it won't be as exciting, but I kind of think it is, because everyone was on the edge. And like I said, my worry has been from the very beginning is I quite liked it when people were falling off randomly, because it adds this element of just, you don't know. It's like Mario Karts and someone chucks a banana and then someone just disappears and you're like, oh my God. So I've kind of always been worried that the gear and everyone's level just gets that much better, that then it becomes whoever's first around the first mark, then they're just following. And I've always been worried at that. But so far, I've not been right at all. I've been more totally wrong than, even close to being right, as if we used last year. And then again, I still have the same fear every year, but I'm like a clock. What was it? So I'm like a broken clock. I'll be right twice in the 24 hours. So at some point, I'll have to be right, surely. But I hope I'm not. I really do, because, if I could watch, last year's scenario play out every year, that type of racing. And talking of that, I wanted to ask you, you were one of the first sailors, correct me if I'm wrong, to wear a neck brace.
Mm-hmm.
How are we seeing more of that? Because I'm hearing whiplash stories from some of the lower down rank riders. Are we going to see, that hook that releases like a ski binding? Are we seeing anything of that? Because I remember speaking to Nico Goya, said he'd got that release hook and it was saving so much equipment. And if we use Enrico Marotti, for example, I think in Furta, he broke all his booms apart from one. He broke, like there was equipment when they going down really hard. So is there any sort of innovation in that side of the equipment going on?
I have to say, not really.
Okay.
I get I get quite some questions about the neck brace. I would say
You
once.
still wearing it? Just checking.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I'm still getting these questions, like I would say once every 2 weeks, like online or at the
Really?
beach. Yeah. It's quite frequent.
For people who
And
don't know, as far as I know, you've got like a go-karting neck brace. Is
yeah,
that
yeah, I got inspired by Enrico Marotti
right? Okay.
because he started it, and then I also ordered one. And basically, yeah, it's a neck brace for kart racing. So usually you wear a full helmet, and that way we had to cut off the front, let's say 130 degrees, because yeah, would be bad for the mouth or
Okay.
the bone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That if you crash and your head gets smacked forward, and was mainly to protect against side and back whiplashes. And for me, I have to say it doesn't bother me. I was now sailing one time without, and then I put it on in the second session. Then I felt okay, there is something. And for example, when I pull up my sail, like a start, like I'm standing on the board pulling the sail up, then I can't look to the top. Usually you automatically do it. I don't know why. So now I just have to look down. But this is basically the only 3 seconds where I feel it.
Okay.
So I will just continue using it. And last year, for example, we had it that Jordi crashed at the giant mark, and then Maciek went into him with the front wing hitting his shoulder,
Oh
you
shit.
know. And then for the first time, it came up into my mind. Okay, maybe it's not just if I crash, but if someone goes into my neck with a
Yeah,
fall,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So this is also I would maybe even put it like 50-50 of
Yeah.
why I use it.
Yeah. I can totally see that. I mean, if
Yeah,
someone touches your neck with that foil, literally
yeah,
game over, isn't it? Really?
yeah.
That's what I mean. That is another thing I've been banging on about, and I've been totally wrong with because we haven't seen really any big crashes. But I just kind of feel I'd be very surprised if there isn't one. No, again, I'm not trying to tempt fate or anything, but I just feel that with the close racing, the competitiveness, the
Yeah, it
adrenaline,
has to.
it just feel like, well, it's just a matter of time, like
Yeah,
obviously
already
I'll be
now.
right at some point, but it's like you've got to take precautions, like you say, to protect yourself. And I have heard stuff talking about wetsuits, and I don't know how much people are going into it. It doesn't seem like they are yet, but I do feel we are going that way. And I think that neck brace, I think the look is good. It almost looks to me when I watch you sailing, it looks like you're kind of resting in it, and it kind of chills you out a bit. You're just like I don't know, like you don't have to hold your like that, because it's quite a
Yeah,
concentrated game, isn't it? Foiling, you've got to be really
yes.
focused, and I kind of feel like this might help. I just like keep you
I have to say,
nothing like that, but
yeah, even light wind races are not that boring.
yeah,
So I never really, had the
I'll
idea
fall
to
asleep over the
sleep
line.
on my neck brace. Yeah, but then,
Classic.
as you mentioned, there's also this hook,
Yes.
the release hook, and also there, Enrico was the guy who showed it to me for the first time, I think 2 years ago, and I don't know if he or why he didn't use it on Fuerte, because I don't see a reason. I heard that some people are not trusting
Yeah,
the thing
pop
because
out maybe.
in the end it's just a spring which you can regulate,
Yeah.
and that basically decides how
It's
much
isn't it?
force
Yeah.
is needed to open a thing. So, but to me, I used it all of last season and it never accidentally opened. Of course, I put it a lot tighter than
Yeah.
it's supposed to be, and I also had some crashes where it didn't even
Oh,
release.
okay. Did you
Because
break anything?
no,
So
no,
that makes sense to me because again, I don't think it's easy to get to that level of when you know how tight it is. But if you do get there, in theory, if you crash and don't break anything, it shouldn't open. And then if it opens, you probably know that would, that'd be the ideal situation. Because and also it did worry me, like I said, if I had it and I was racing, it's just one more thing that can go wrong, which is not totally in your control. If that setting isn't quite right, or you get a weird pull.
Yeah, like I tried it this year. I set it a lot less because I really just wanted to find the edge again. And then on purpose I did some heavy touchdowns, like going 80% speed on the way out, grabbing the boom as much as I can, but still having all the power in the hook. And then I had it one time that it released, and then I thought, okay, I need to put a bit more again. And now I forgot what I wanted to add, but I wanted to say that of course the risk that it opens at a random moment due to anything anything random is still for me kind of acceptable, because if I crash once and maybe break a boom and injure myself pretty hard, then it's also almost game over for the competition, So
it's a good point.
Go anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm just going to go through a few comments before I miss some easy ones. Brown says, what board foils will you use? I assume an 85 wide, he says. So just for people who don't know, there's one foil board this year. Last year it was two foil boards, wasn't it? Was it two?
Yes.
Yes, it was two.
Basically, it was 3 boards, and one of them had to be a fin board.
Yeah. Okay. But this year, one foil board. So the big foil board last year would have been what, 90, 91, was it?
90? Yeah, 89 to 91, something like this.
And then the small one was, some people had 80s as a small one, didn't they?
Yeah, some people had 85 as the smallest, some people had 79.
Yeah, because there was a few brands. I know there was a bit of talk and a bit of, brands had already made their boards and they were moaning. I know there was a lot of moaning going on, like every year, but because everyone's got their own interests and their own brands and their boards that they like, and sweet boards. But so what are most people what are you taking?
85. I think 85. By now almost every brand has an 85. I think Phantom goes with 86.
Okay.
Taboo, I don't know. Maybe one brand has 87. I don't remember, but
okay. So mid 80s though.
Yeah.
Okay, mid 80s, and then
foils. And then foils for me, I will take both wings I had last year. So from the Patrick Ian foil, the 550 and 450, and then I will add a smaller one. And last year we already had the 375 as a smaller one, and this is also not so nice about all these rule changes, because in Fuerte last year we were brainstorming about what wing we want to add for this year, and back then we still had the 2 wing rule, so we added a 400 wing, which is basically just slightly bigger than the 375, a bit more optimized for slalom, and so now we are allowed to take 3 wings all of a sudden, and I don't know 100% which small wing I will take. They are both they are different, but they are for the same wind range, let's say. So you could make both of them work. And
what are you edging towards?
Probably the new 400, I have to say. It's a bit of tech talk. So it's basically, both have the same span, but the 400 has more cord. So in this area, and the 400 is also a lot more slim, so you can technically go faster, but it's a bit harder to control because it's a slimmer profile. So
so you're choosing to go faster in the wind rather than more control. I like it.
I have to.
I like it. Brown, same guy, says, is the 550 big wing large enough for light wind days? What is the race wind minimum?
550, I feel comfortable in 10 knots and more. So this is what we are typically racing in PWA.
What size sails
that will be 8.5.
Okay.
For me. And if I go to national events or IFCA events, I need the 650 from Patrick because I tried it last year a few times, and below 10 knots to get going with the 550 or to go through really light wind jibes, it's just not possible sometimes.
Yeah.
But from 10 knots on, like 10, 11, 12, easy choice.
Okay. That's good. I think that'll be good information for you boys at home. Like I say, any technical questions, chuck them in the comments. Michele Becker, obviously sponsored by Patrick if you didn't tune in or you've not been following.
Yeah.
And Patrick have got a pretty tasty foil by all accounts at the moment. It's kind of hot property. I don't know. Do they sell out? Is it easy to get one? Because I would imagine, listening to the rumors I'm hearing, I'm sure it's in pretty high demand.
Yes, it is. I don't know exactly how long it takes if you order now, but I would guess at least 4 to 6 weeks. But yeah, I could be wrong. But for sure, it's not on stock.
Yeah.
Because as I said, it's so high valuable items and high demand. So yeah.
Matteo says, how many fuselages and backwinds will be allowed?
That's easy. It's 2 fuselages and 2 back wings. So that's also the same like last year.
And what back wings do you use? Just because I'm sure people like to hear the numbers. What size?
So fuselages, Patrick has for slalom like a meter ones, and then with different amounts of power. And nowadays I'm mainly using the V2. It's in the middle.
So hang on a minute. So the fuselage is a meter long, and you have 2 of them, which is they're all a meter long.
Yes,
and
3.
What happens? It moves along. They move the balance.
They move by. Let's start with the V1, most power, and then it moves 2 centimeters further back.
Okay.
Like the mast connection, and that way all the wings get shifted more to the back.
So the more the front wings sticking out the front, the more power it's got.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So as I said, V2 is the go-to for me, and I think also for most people. And then of course light winds, you choose the V1. And if you're a guy who also goes out in like 20-25 knots or more on a daily basis, then V3 is also quite nice.
Okay.
To handle the power.
GN says, what's the real PWA light wind?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I would say 10 knots at least. So like 10 to 12 knots, I would say, because otherwise,
the wind meters are different on the PWA.
Yeah.
I mean, they measure it in a drifting boat. There's a lot of ways you can measure it, but there's definitely, it seems like the wind minimum is slightly higher at most PWA events. Like when you see the true PWA regulars go to other events, they're always complaining if there's a light wind race. That's what I always see. So it always is a kind of a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah.
Right. Let's have a look at some other comments here. We've got Share Waves. Actually says moin moin. Why is just free riding, as known as soul surfing, not the thing for you to spend your off time? What is your hobby? Yeah, what do you do, I guess, other than
that's a good question. The thing is that I think I said in a few interviews now already, or in some articles, that just freesailing for me is not so rewarding, not so much fun. Usually I try it once or twice after the season, in autumn when it gets a bit more cold, and then I just go out without training, because competitions are over, and then I'm always a bit bored. And I think that's just because I'm so lucky to do windsurfing almost every day as my job. And so basically, and for me, the most reward I can feel is if I get a bit better, if I find a nice gear setup, whatever. So in the end, I windsurf so much. So the pure feeling of windsurfing, I got used to, I guess. So then I'm just searching for new missions every session.
I can see that. I can see that. Like, again, it depends. Wave riding, slalom, free ride. You know, I do a little bit of everything, and the reason I do a bit of everything is to mix it up. You know, I find it very difficult, especially because more recently I'm going to go to the Deafy Wind. I'm obviously not training to do that well, but I just training because it's enjoyable. I don't want to totally die in the race. So, but just going up and down for an hour, it's like, all right, I much prefer when we'd have the little races here, you know, the Portuguese National Championships. I love racing. I'm not that fast, but just the having that competitive, you know, your brain is working, you're looking for lines, you're looking for gaps, you know, and just always after a race and you get back to the beach, just that beach chat between the guys you race with. If you've never raced and you've never experienced that, and you don't need to be at the front to have this kind of racing adrenaline come, like it's like a camaraderie you have with racing, fair racing with people, you know, where someone goes for a gap, they get inside you and you're like, I know I left that too big, I messed up, you know. It's such a good feeling racing. So I can imagine when you're racing at your level, it is difficult to replicate that type of adrenaline, that type of, you know, energy. Yeah, it's all right to go for a bit of a soul search and free your mind a little bit, but in terms of an all-day sesh, it's probably not on your cards. And like you say, it's your job, you know, that's what you do. So what do you do outside of that then? What's your sort of get away from it all? Do you have any sports hobbies outside?
So first of all, I want to add what you said, that, you know, the after race talk at the beach, or that, you know, you were reflecting the races. This is exactly why windsurf racing is as addictive as wave sailing. You know, in wave sailing, you always want to catch one more wave, you know, one more jump. And there it's like the idea of, oh man, I could have done this drive a bit better, and or not let this guy pass me. And doesn't matter if you're in the front of the fleet or just racing, you know, against your friend somewhere in the middle of the lake. It's just this idea of, for me, it's just the idea of being perfect, and just, you know, making the best out of each wave and gust, and, you know, with my gear, it's just nice.
It's interesting. Again, as you say that, I'm thinking about it to me, and that's what I miss from my free ride sessions. Yeah, it's nice and relaxing. It's good to free your mind, almost like it's more like a relaxing thing. But the racing side of it, I love it because you're accountable. You know, if you're sailing on your own and you jibe around a mark, you go, yeah, I did a good jibe.
Yeah.
But if you're racing and you do a good jibe around a mark, but someone does something better, you're like, fuck. You reassess what you thought was good. You know, what you think is good in racing, it's not determined on what you think is good. It's what you're competing against and your decision making against them. And there's so much, like I say, if you've never raced, I really recommend you going to some national races, and because it can be so much fun. And I think maybe that racing side, people are, again, maybe like Mr. Share Waves there. He's like, oh, racing is too competitive, whatever. But there is, again, maybe you have to be a certain type of person. I'm obviously a competitive person as well. But even if you're not, I still think there's joy to be had in that sort of challenge.
Yeah.
You know, really
growing up, I always wanted to be a professional freestyler. But then at some point I had to be a bit more realistic, and I learned, you know, the moves quite well. But also in slalom, I was doing well. And then, you know, I moved my focus over to slalom. And then a lot of times I had a little talk with Niklas Nebelong, you know, the German freestyler.
He's ripping
well. Yeah. And he always said, man, how can you race every day? How can you just go fast, just go one, you know, in one straight line? And I'm always telling him it's not like that. When I'm out there, I also try to do my moves. I try to do like nice jibes, like tight, wide jibes, whatever. So it's not just going back and forth. It's also just, you know, a whole like discipline with every, or with a lot of.
It's hard to explain to people, isn't it? Because it's very difficult unless you've experienced it, because you look at the water in a whole different way. I mean, I've grown up, people probably don't know if they've only, you know, sort of followed me in the last couple of years, but, you know, I have Olympic racing background and sailing on lakes and racing against boats. So reading wind shifts, tacking on gusts, all that stuff. I don't look like it because everyone classed me as a wave sailor, but love that shit. I always get wound up sometimes watching the PWA racing when someone just jibes into a hole, and I'm like, you don't have to jibe there. The mark is there you don't have to do that. And it's like I get really upset in the old racing where literally, the guy he's got a brilliant start, goes around the first mark, they're clean through, he's done everything right, and then the race gets cancelled. To me, I'm like, for me, it's way more unfair to cancel the race because the guys have done everything they needed to do. Whereas the rule is, these guys, it's unfair for them because they can't catch up. And I'm just like, well, this guy's done everything. He's done everything, and you could say, oh, he had a lucky wind shift. But a lot of the time it's been doing that all day. And the percentage safe move is maybe to go at the boat because the wind's been heading and people don't make the mark. But then the guys that gamble on the port end, which if the wind stays at the other end, they're going to win, get smashed. And then the race gets cancelled. You're like, well, they took the gamble. There's lots of different ways to look at racing. Again, I'm not racing, so I shouldn't really say too much, but I always look at it from
I fully agree.
Side. And I think there's more to it than just blasting down the reach, doing a jibe, blasting down the reach, and being the fastest guy on around the course. Like when there's gusts, there's shifts, there's especially on the foil, you do not need to jibe right at the mark. If that gust carries on for a bit longer and you can stay in the gust and stay on the foil, sometimes you might end up doing a longer jibe, or doing a longer course.
Yes, or going with the swell and whatever stuff like this.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, interesting. We will see, I guess. We'll see. You didn't answer. What other hobbies?
My hobbies are, I would say, surfing, because for me currently I prefer going surfing than windsurf wave sailing. I don't even have wave gear at the moment, because there I like the simplicity of just having a board. Yeah. And when I'm at home, a bit of gaming, I would say. But currently I'm also not in the mood for it. I feel super productive these days, so I don't even have my PlayStation ready to go. But usually after the season or after a busy few weeks, then I like to go with some friends.
Interesting. I mean, surfing, I do a lot of surfing here, but that's another, for me, Zen thing. Like just sitting out there. It's like people meditate. I go surfing and just have a moment. It's like there's no distractions apart from a few waves every so often to keep you going. But then there's actually quiet moments which are actually pretty amazing. And interesting you say about gaming, because for people who don't know, Enrico Marotti, Amado Vrieswijk, they're really into this sim racing, aren't they? That's from what I've heard. So they've got like a full car simulator setup and they do proper courses. And I've heard, I think Colin was telling me, who's also into it, Colin Dixon I do the coaching with, he was saying to me Amado is in the top percentile of the world.
I heard the same, but I don't know exactly.
But it's bonkers because Colin's he's not even got the right equipment or whatever it is. I don't really know. I'm not into it that much, but the right console, it's a bit laggy. So, and he doesn't even train. And he's like, I know his granddad was a racer or something, like a car racer, but he's like, it's mad that he is that good without, how he does. I mean, he was blown away with it. He does quite a lot of it. So yeah, it's quite interesting to see those windsurfers behind the scenes, what they do, because I think a lot of people wouldn't see that. I heard Enrico Marotti takes the whole simulator.
Yeah, so I have to say I'm not doing racing really. Okay. Yeah,
just Pokemon or something.
yeah.
FIFA. Oh, what have we got? Right, let's have a look. It's hi Michelle, congrats on a great season last year. Will you be using Patrick gear for Slalom X as well?
Yeah. Well, I didn't even say it this clear, but I will not do Slalom X.
Okay. I thought I kind of guessed that actually.
Yeah. I will.
You just focus on the foiling.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's interesting. And again, if you're doing 2-in-1 show, if you just focus on your foil, you can kind of watch them and see how it plays out. It's super interesting. You have to join me in the commentary booth.
Yeah, I will.
We've got Mario saying, Well, I'm guessing that's Epic, unless that's
Epic,
some code word.
I think.
I'm going with Epic. I'm just running through the comments here. Bob just tuned in. Will Michelle be Finn as well as full? No, we just answered that one. Peter Olsen, hi boys. Anyone on Simmer gear in the slalom? I don't think so. I know Simmer stepped out of it until it sort of settled down, and now they're probably having a look at it again. So I guess they're going to have a look at how this season goes and then make some stuff. I mean, they do have the gear to do it, but it's, again, you've got to have the right riders, and there are a few riders floating around. But I think just the way the market is and the way the foiling is, it hasn't been so stable. And a few of the brands, I mean, Patrick's one of them, who's gone full into it, and it's fully paid off. You know, if you end up with, you know, let's say, and again, I think you were a real contributor to this, is basically, and I don't mean to be disrespectful here, a no name in terms of the tried and tested, you know, guys at the top. You know, you came from kind of a place that the normal watcher who doesn't really tune into all the nitty gritty stuff wouldn't have known you. And you've taken new gear from Patrick and gone to 5th in the world. You know, yes, you're a good racer, but the gear has got to be good. And it wasn't just you. You know, there was other things, and now he's obviously the foil reputation is going around, and that's how people make money. The problem is, there's no guarantees that you come up with that magic formula. You know, you could do all the work and still not quite be the best, because there's only really, you know, in these early stages, I always see there's always one kind of winner one year. It's always, and everyone's close, but
and I have to say that even if you have the best gear, if there's a brand which has just much more budget, they can just spend it on marketing, and then even worse stuff will somehow look good, because if you pay 4 top riders, then for sure one will do good in the end.
It is difficult. I mean, it is difficult, and it's very difficult with foiling. And I know this from an amateur foiler. What do you buy? You don't know, you know, because and also what might be good for you or good for the top guys, is it good for me, or, you know, a level that is at the lower end? And sometimes it's not. So sometimes other foils for certain brands, you know, it's very difficult. I think you really, and I think that's what a few people still on the sidelines waiting for it to calm down a bit.
But there I have to say, with foiling, I think everyone makes it a bit too complicated, and I guess, or I can understand that they see our foils and they cost, I don't know, like 6,000 euros nowadays. Jeez. But it's also that back on the
how much they cost? Sorry, I'm not is how much they cost. Wow,
a lot. But also back on the Fin days, the top guys had such a gear advantage because they had every sail 3 times. They had, you know, every board 3 times. So in the end, now it just looks more expensive, but the gear advantage from me on the national competition is now the same like it would have been on Fin. And so if you're interested in foiling and you can get a foil cheap or whatever, or you just have Fin sails, just go ahead and use them. It's really no problem. And for example, I still have my small Fin board, but I have no Fin sails. So if there's a nice forecast, like 30 knots, nice bit of waves, I will just take my 6-meter foil sail. Yeah, it will not be good after the jibe because it has no backhand and whatever, but I can have fun, you know. So no need to overcomplicate things, even if we as pros do it, but you know, we have to. So
I think that's the case. I think that we definitely have had some transitional years, but I think, again, I'm someone who's involved in the market, and I'm still a little bit, you know, fluffy around the edges. I still speak to you boys and I'm like, oh God, I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. And it does take time for it to trickle down, and it will do. You know, you guys are the pioneers of that, and that's where it's going. And you're kind of leading the way of maybe what's going to come to most of us later on, you know, and that. But like you said, you still can buy this gear right now, like the same stuff that you guys are using, which, you know, that wasn't the case back in the day. You know?
And this is the idea of the PWA, you know, that we go on not on custom gear, on serial gear, so that everyone who wants can have it.
Let's just have a look. Whatever comments if we miss in, we've got market strategy said foil only was super exciting last year. Don't do too much stuff. No one understands. Yeah, I think he wants to see more foiling, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Again, says Finn, maybe in Pozo, maybe in Furter, just leave it on the rider. Don't understand the discussion. We are talking so much. I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, that was the early talk. I don't think it's going to be changing. I think we covered these questions earlier. Does Carpenter make foils? I don't think he does. No, I don't think he does, because he is obviously one of the Finn guys. I'm really interested to see what happens in the Finn, just to see. You don't know when you haven't done it properly for a bit. Yeah. Bob says, what is the ideal weight for foil races? Is it still 190 pounds? I don't even know what that is.
So this is below 100 kilos, no?
Yeah, that's. I would say that's light. I think from what I heard, it's heavier than that.
I would say, I can just speak in kilograms. I think if you're somewhat tall, so like 180, 185 and more, than 100 kilos could be perfect. Me personally, I'm 181, and I feel like I'm a bit too short, but can't do anything about it. And
220 is 100 kilos.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say 220.
Yeah,
is the best. And yeah, I'm now 93, and I'm trying to be a solid 95 during the season. And I would prefer more, but I feel like I don't know. My body always gives me some signs that being too heavy is not so good. Then I start having some pain here and there, and
You really want to be mid-90s, don't you? An ideal mid-90s and above is like, I remember speaking to Amado, and he's like, look, I think what was he, 99 or 100?
Yeah, man, before Tenerife, I was, I think, like 97 or 98, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I could really push for 100 kilos. But then, I was ill, then I had some back pain and so on, and then I settled it down a bit, and
Wow, that's good going, man. It's not easy. Some people think, oh, that's brilliant, but it's not easy, is it?
But I would like just to have a bit more height, because this also helps. So being like 90 kilos,
a bit of leverage to get out. Yeah, it's interesting. So do you think the ideal, if you had to like make this ideal foiler, is 100 kilos?
I don't know. Just take Johan.
Yeah,
like 192, 95, 105 kilos. I think that's the answer.
And Bill, but like absolutely, Yeah, the Viking. He's definitely. It's going to be very interesting to see him. This year, that's for sure, because he'll have the bit between his teeth. He's doing some studies last year as well.
Yeah,
I'm really excited to see how
a wild year.
Did you hear much from the racing, from the guys? Was he? I mean, or normal stuff?
I don't know. I heard that he was not so fast, surprisingly, but. I cannot imagine that.
No, but to be fair, the year before, last year, I'm not saying he wasn't fast. Of course, he was fast, but he wasn't the fastest. But he just never made mistakes. I always remember his jibing was just insane. It was always in the final, good start, and then never faltered.
Yeah, he was like always Mr. Fourth places. Yeah, like every heat, every final.
Yeah.
It felt like, of course,
he was just always there, never went away. He just never made a mistake, and that's interesting, because, like you say, the initial thought of him, even mine, and I had to think back to it, was he's just devastatingly fast and he's whatever. But actually, it's not the fastest. He wasn't. Let's see.
But I think for sure he was like top 5.
Like I said, when I say he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't just like posting people like Bjorn back in the day.
Or like, for example, not like Nico Goya in Fuerte, when he was starting bad, but still.
Or like Will in Lake Garda.
Or
Will in Lake Garda.
Man.
That was just insane.
Yes.
Like it really shocked me. I was like,
yes. Oh man, last season was so cool. Like every event we had something special.
That was mad. I'm so gutted there was no Lake Garda this year, because I thought that was a really great way for me to start the year. It felt like the right venue to start the racing. It really did. It was like, not to say Pozo isn't a great way to start, but I feel like it's too extreme for the first race. I kind of like that's foil in on a lake. We got some consistent wind. It's like just the place felt good. Like it just felt good. I mean, the weather we had was shit. But
once we are there, I will ask you again if you're happy with being on Pozo for the first event or not, because I think the show will be maybe even crazier.
It'll be insane. But what I like is I like at least to be racing earlier than Pozo. Like it feels like it's, to me, it feels like it's a late start. Like when's Pozo? Probably July. It's like
end of June.
I feel like we should be having a race soon. I mean, we've got the Defi, but I mean the PWA Tour. I would like a race just to set out some levels, because it's obviously a different race. Lake Garda is a different one to Pozo, and Pozo. They're all quite different. Which I just think Lake Garda should be on the tour. I feel like it's. I feel like there's so many windsurfers there, and so many windsurfers go there, and so many people know about it and associate with Lake Garda. And I think we were unfortunate with the weather we had last year. It's my first time to Garda. And I was like, well, this is not great. But I did see a glimpse of what it could be, and that looked perfect.
Yes. Yeah.
So we'll see. Okay, so we got that one answered. We've got Matteo saying, have you ever tried the 450
Ian
from
that's the product name of the Patrick foil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. On the 7.5.
Sorry, the 450 Patrick front wing on the 7.5 or 8 meter sail.
I used it on my 7.4 a few times. That's a normal, like a good combination. Then I heard from another customer that it's also possible to use on a 7.7 or 7.8.
Okay.
So it really depends on what the 8 meter is, how new school it is, how the sail works, but it is possible. But I would say like 550 is just a bit more nicer. A bit more nice.
You're not fighting to keep it going.
And it feels quite small, and then you really always need to go with speed, and also with speed through the jibes. But it's possible, and that's good.
Okay, right. A couple more questions. We got Marty saying, in a racing also improves your own individual. Oh, okay. Is that the sim racing we're talking about here? Also improves your own individual skill level. Being at the back.
No, I think.
No, sorry, I've got you. Just like national racing.
Yeah.
Also improves your own individual skill level. Being at the back of the fleet years ago to be now competing at the front is a massive adrenaline rush and a pressure vacuum. Yeah, like I said, don't underestimate how fun national racing could be, and don't go there with any expectations, and you will be surprised, because I say, wherever you are in the fleet, you will find someone to race with. It's weird how it happens. Like, for example, you go to the Defi. There's 1,000 odd windsurfers there, and let's say you do 3 races. You will be shocked. In those 3 races, you will see the same frigging people. It's like, it's so funny. You think, no, I'm never going to end up with them, but you just seem to end up leveling out with whoever it is, and it's mad. Or you'll be getting to the end of the race and you'll see them. You'll be like, no, they're ahead of me. And then it's like, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun stuff. Brown says sail sizes are also interesting. 8.5 down to 4.0. Are the sails more flexible in terms of wind range you can use them in? So have the sails changed much this year for Patrick?
They didn't change so much. They basically, all of them got a bit more high aspect, but the boom stayed the same length. So they automatically gained like 0.2 or 0.1 square meter, except for small sizes. We did new. And as you said, 8.5, then 7.4, 6.2, 5.0, and then 4.5, because the 4.0 didn't get ready in time and will not be produced this year. So 4.5 will be my smallest. And wind range, I would say similar to last year's Patrick sales. I was really happy with them. I always had 1.2 square meter steps, and I still feel very comfortable. But I have to say that I was a bit nervous when I used the pre-production sails, because they felt quite powerful.
Yeah.
And now I figured out that with the new sails, I almost always use one sail size smaller than the other guys.
Okay.
So yeah, there I was a bit stressed, because all of a sudden the 6.2 felt so powerful, but then I just swapped to the 5.0 and it was perfect. And then I remember one day I was racing on a 6.2, super comfortable, and Maciek was on the 7.7 near Pride, and he was, I think he was powered up, but he could go, so that just shows that there is a lot of room. And this also, to your point earlier, this will also happen this season, that people will still choose different sails for different eliminations or for the same eliminations. So you will still have someone who opts to go for small wing, small sail first, or someone with bigger gear.
I mean, that's actually what I was thinking earlier, because yes, you got 3 front wings now. You still got to make that decision. And you definitely don't want to be on the wrong, you don't want to be under foiled, even though it's quicker, and over you get more lift, but you're going to go through. So we're going to have probably more decisions, which for you guys, mentally, it must be so tough, that, because I sometimes, I used to do Olympic sailing, so it's one design. You see, you don't have any choice. It's amazing. It's amazing and shit at the same time. But the amazing bit is you don't have this indecision. It's like, okay, maybe you've got a few different mass or whatever, but essentially you go, right, well, that's the gear. I got to just deal with it. I just got to do whatever I got to do to get around the course, to go faster than the other guy. But it's when you've got those decisions, and that's what I always hated, even when I do slalom at the local level here. It's like, oh, it's so nerve-wracking. You're leaving it to the last moment, and you've got one boom, and you're like, I'm going to put the boom on the 7.8 or the 7.0. I mean, I know you don't have that deal, but I can imagine you've got to take one front wing off to put the other front wing on, or, stressful. Bloody stressful. Right. Last couple of questions, then we'll let you go, because it's probably getting late now. Looks like Dijon Dominic's already gone. Right. One more question. Here we go. Nick, I'm not a naturally competitive person, but after a friend talked me into joining Vincent Langer's race camp in Egypt, I really enjoyed the slalom racing. So much more fun than sailing alone.
Exactly.
I totally agree with that. Like I sail a bit on myself alone here in Martigny, just because there's not so many windsurfers, but it's good conditions. And I do miss the racing. As soon as the racing kicks off, it's a different feeling. Everything just heightens up, and it's like you can still have a nice sail, don't get me wrong, but it just gives you that little bit of an edge and that little bit of a goal that you can measure. Of course you can measure your own jives. Oh, I did planing jives all day. But then there's the next level up from that, and it's, placement, tactical bits, starting, being faster than someone, reading a gust. There's lots of different things come into play.
Yes.
And it's knackering. One race, which is 3 minutes or something like that, you will feel like you've sailed for fucking 3 hours. You're like, you come in and you're just like, oh my God, I'm knackered. You're like, you've only been out there 3 minutes, Ben. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Hang on. Mario's got one question. Please ask Michele what's his favorite juice.
Orange juice, Mario. Einfach Orangensaft.
All right, dude. Well, like I said, good to chat to you. I think we should do a similar thing to last year, where we follow you through most of the events, get some feedback, see how it's going. I think it's interesting for guys to hear about it. Obviously, it's your second full year now, so there is different things at play. Last year, we got you in because it was your first full year. We had some nervous. Now, you're the hunted.
Reason?
Yeah, you're the hunted. So it's a strange one, because I'm really interested to see how you deal with that, because that's probably more pressure. Well, it's not more. It's not maybe. It is more pressure.
Yes.
But at the same time, you also know you can do it. But now you know you can do it. Can you do? It's quite exciting. I think it's going to be an interesting one.
Yes.
Definitely. All right, dude. So we're not seeing you in the Defi. You're going to be doing some German stuff. You're obviously still doing your YouTube channel. Have you been doing many YouTube videos? I haven't seen many.
A bit, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
it's tough.
Yeah,
You know
it is tough. People don't understand it sometimes. And Mario, I don't know what the hell that guy's been eating over the winter, but he's turned into an absolute machine on YouTube.
He's a machine.
Honestly, I'm like, wow. I mean, he has got a shop, which then makes the perfect combo. If you're going to make videos, at least you might be able to profit some. And so he should do, because I think he's making super good videos. So Mario, keep it up, man. I'm really impressed. It looks, you got some good quality going down. I think he's joined up also with my brain's gone.
What are you looking for? A person? A brand?
Yeah, no, sorry. Yes.
Yeah. The other German.
Yes, the other German.
YouTuber.
Sorry, my brain went then. But that's what you got to do. You got to team up with someone, because filming on your own.
It looked a lot of fun what they did on Sardinia and so on.
And it just goes to show, if you push it out there, you go different spots, you look at the content he's producing, just look at the views and the numbers. It's what people want to see. They're really interested in it. So good job. All right, man. Well, see you soon. Speak to you soon. If you've got any interesting information, give me a shout and we'll stick on the podcast or whatever. But be here. Good to hear your updates. Cheers, dude.
We'll do it. Thank you.
All right, so there we go. Michele Becker, great to have him on again for this year. Oh, my mic's all gone wonky. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, or you want to have other people on, I have been talking to Riccardo Campello. He's been meant to be coming on for weeks, and now he's put me off till next week. It looks like we might have the World Tour leader, Morgan Nero, coming on next Monday. So he's in the book for Monday. Maciek Rakowski, obviously speak to him. He's changed to Neil Pride. Going to have a chat with Maciek and Riccardo Campello at some point. We're hopefully getting. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you for a more. Mr. Paul Van Bellen will be joining back with the podcast maybe on not maybe. We're on Monday. So join us then. Cheers.